I remember once upon a time when I was like a junior developer, I looked at my calendar and it was wide open except for a
Oh,
couple like
sounds
touch
lovely.
bases. And I was so jealous of the people that got to go to meetings all the time because it was like, ooh, that's important. They're doing bigger things than what I'm doing. And like obviously as the years go by, slowly the calendar starts to fill up. And now I'm in a world where, oh my, today, literally, it was meetings back to back to back to back.
Hmm.
And so making sure that those are effective and I'm getting the most out of them just became way more important because I don't have the time outside of I want as much time outside of those because now they're filling up my calendar.
Hmm.
So we want
Hmm.
to capitalize on the time that we're together.
Again, in 2025, if you said, hey, I want to focus on having smart meetings, meetings that go beyond just a regular meeting and what that might look like. Emma, can you talk a little bit about why how somebody might feel that is valuable to them?
Yeah. So I'm going to start it by saying back to our topic of what if 2025 was your year to have better meetings? Doesn't that sound so nice? Like, I feel like you can take a collective sigh of relief to think through having better meetings in the new year. So for me, what that means is my meetings are productive, they're effective. Everyone knows why we're there, and we're able to have actionable takeaways and actually get stuff done. So you're kind of moving away from the ineffective meeting where it just feels like you're meeting because that's what you think you are supposed to do in the business world. But you're actually moving your projects forward. You're moving your work streams forward because of your meetings. I think the topic that's on most people's mind right now in the tech space is AI. And so that's specifically what I want to talk about here is how can you use AI to have smarter meetings?
Okay, so not just because when you started that, it's like, well, that's a lot about me and doing better meetings, making sure people attend on time and all of that kind of stuff. How would Bulb Digital or how would a technology company help me with that? So you're going to talk specifically about AI, CoPilot,
Yeah.
like those types of things. Okay.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it does go hand in hand. I think creating better meetings does come down to the facilitator, the person organizing it, the person leading it, the participants. But technology, specifically AI, can actually help in all of those areas. So you don't have to take on all of that burden and all that weight yourself as the organizer. Sometimes it is just about learning how to use the tools to take on some of that weight for you.
I remember once upon a time when I was like a junior developer, I looked at my calendar and it was wide open except for a
Oh,
couple like
sounds
touch
lovely.
bases. And I was so jealous of the people that got to go to meetings all the time because it was like, ooh, that's important. They're doing bigger things than what I'm doing. And like obviously as the years go by, slowly the calendar starts to fill up. And now I'm in a world where, oh my, today, literally, it was meetings back to back to back to back.
Hmm.
And so making sure that those are effective and I'm getting the most out of them just became way more important because I don't have the time outside of I want as much time outside of those because now they're filling up my calendar.
Hmm.
So we want to capitalize on the time that we're together.
Yeah. And I think some of the ways that you can make your meetings more effective, Mike and I actually just did a retro on one of our projects and we reflected on this, is making sure every meeting you have has an objective declared, has a really clear purpose, and has a really clear agenda. And then as you're moving through meeting to meeting, week to week, between those meetings, you're declaring what actions are expected to be done, and then you're following up on those. How can tools help with this is probably the next question. Two things that I would mention. One is Loop, and the second is CoPilot. So using CoPilot to help you as you're having meetings, recap what was talked about in that meeting. And you can actually ask CoPilot, hey, what should the agenda be for my next meeting? And it will provide you with agenda items. You can read through those and declare those for the next gathering, but I'm getting sick of saying the word meeting, so I'm trying to think of other words. But then the other side of it is using Loop to capture everything. I sort of see Loop as my digital notebook, and that's where I put the thoughts that Copilot gives me so that I can go from,
It's interesting. Right after this, actually, we're prepping for a webinar where the topic is smart meetings and how to have them. And by the time this comes out, it'll be past that. Maybe we'll do another one. We'll put a link down below where you can learn more. But the thing that comes to mind was little tips like that where I got some of your slides together, and the tip was putting or into CoPilot asking for the agenda for the next meeting, like while you're still in the meeting or while you're ending the meeting, where you're already way ahead because you're just taking information that already exists and putting it somewhere so that you don't have to later and everyone is ready to use it later.
And it can really be simple. Like I have a pre-meeting and a post-meeting checklist. So little things, I have like 4 or 5 things on both of those. And like you said, I can share those out afterward, or if you come to my webinar, you'll learn them. Just little things of even pre-meeting. Are you checking your Outlook calendar to track what attendees have responded? Has everyone confirmed that they're coming? Have you followed up with those who haven't confirmed that they're coming? These are really simple and, basic meeting type etiquette, but I think getting those correct, or even using the tool, using Outlook in that way, I think we forget that we're able to do that, and then put a reminder in a task list to remind yourself to follow up with those people. Again, taking the burden off yourself to remember every little thing and trying to put that into the tool to remind you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's about trying to make yourself more present in the meeting using tools. So it's enabling you to focus on those other things.
Yeah.
I really love this topic because I think it has extremely high potential to improve not only an individual's ability to be effective, but if you're able to figure out how to adopt this culturally across an organization and get everyone using these tools effectively in this way, it can have just a massive impact on the man hours that are spent coordinating meetings and figuring out follow-ups and tasks and agendas and all of that kind of stuff. And it's all right there in the tools.
So the one thing I would be remiss if I didn't mention, the other thing that I've been doing a lot in my recent meetings is always having a planner board or a task list in a loop, which is somewhat similar to a planner board in a sense. Always having that open while you're in the meeting, and then assigning tasks as things are getting tasked out. So-and-so said they were going to do this. Write what the task is, assign it to them. They're going to get an email. Microsoft will do that for you on, hey, you've been assigned this task, and then you don't even need to do the work of following up with that person immediately because they already have that. They know that you're holding them accountable to it.
And when you go to the next meeting, before the next meeting, you can check progress. How many people have completed their stuff? What's the updates on that?
Yeah.
And you can kind of save a little bit of time that you would usually say, hey, everybody, what's the latest and greatest on every little thing?
Right.
Yeah. Anything else on that?
No, I would just say, using the CoPilot recap feature is also a favorite of mine. Part of my post-meeting checklist, I always go through, recap the meeting. That's all within Teams. You can use Teams Premium for that as well. And then pasting that again somewhere that everyone else can see the recap. So those are some of my top tips on having smart meetings. It has really increased my joy of meetings, being able to use all these tools, because it takes some of that busy work and that burden off of me.
Off of you.
Yeah.
I feel like I have to mention Microsoft, all they're talking about right now is CoPilot. And so this feels like we are like drinking the Kool-Aid and being like, this is the greatest thing. Is in this particular case, it is super helpful.
Yeah.
Like it is
probably the lowest fruit that you can get.
Yeah.
Using CoPilot in this way is the easiest, most broad-reaching way that you can get value from getting a CoPilot license or a Teams Premium license, as you said.
Yeah. So we're not just like riding some coattails.
Yeah, other parts of CoPilot, it's like, I don't know that everybody needs it, but.
Well, and to be totally candid, I don't know a meeting I've been in with you guys that we haven't co-piloted in the last
several months.
Yes, months it's been. So it's like we're not just saying like, oh, you should go try to use it. Like we actually use it for every single 100%. One of our meetings. We see so much value in it. So we're walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Yeah.
So what if 2025 was their year to do smart meetings? What would that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is adopting an experimental mindset. I think using AI, you have to see it as, all right, I'm going to experiment with this. I'm going to see what works for me. I'm going to try out prompts. AI is sometimes only as good as the prompts you're putting into it. Microsoft does have CoPilot Labs, which is a website that kind of helps you figure out some good prompts to use. But yeah, just take an experimental mindset. Obviously, get the license. I think that would be the first step. And then just moving forward of, okay, how am I using it in my meetings? Am I asking it to give me tasks? Am I getting recaps? Am I getting agendas? What am I using it for? Where do I get the most value?
Mm-hmm. And I like your concepts of like, this is very type A, lists of things to do, checklists
Yeah.
before the meeting, after the meeting. Like
Yeah.
if you do not have those, create some, try
Yep.
it out, see how it works.
Yeah, so that way you're not reinventing every time you get together and you gather. You're not trying to think through, what did I do last week? Just write it down, make some notes for yourself, and make some more repeatable processes. And again, Loop is a great tool for jotting that kind of thing down.